Anyone who has ever been the real heir of a wealthy family knows this. Being kidnapped, abandoned, or replaced by a fake heir happens all the time. Take me, for example. I was trafficked overseas at the age of 3 and ended up eating nothing but Margherita pizza for a full 20 years before my rich biological parents finally tracked me down. I thought I'd be welcomed home with open arms. Instead, the moment I stepped through the front door, I saw a boy about my age sobbing pitifully, while my parents and my sister surrounded him, murmuring soft reassurances and comforting him in every possible way. I frowned slightly, thinking to myself, the villa's not bad, but why are the perimeter walls hollowed out like that? Aren't they afraid of someone taking a sniper shot? With this kind of money, the windows should at least be bulletproof. So cheap. That north-facing window on the second floor looks straight out onto the street. If you mounted a belt-fed machine gun there and paired it with a sniper rifle, you could probably hold off a light infantry assault for over an hour. TSK. Why is this damn brat crying like such a wimp? My head hurts like hell. I need to take my meds fast. If someone dies on my first day back, they'll definitely start despising me. Damn groundhog. Can you stop yapping already? I can't take it anymore. Maybe I should just get rid of him tonight. I had just opened my mouth to speak when the entire family suddenly fell silent. Like someone had pressed mute. They all turned around and stared at me standing in the doorway, their faces filled with fear. As for Makoto, who had been standing in the center of their little circle, no one knew what triggered him, but he suddenly let out a strange GUH sound and fainted on the spot. Chapter 1. I stood at the doorway with my suitcase in hand. The moment I stepped inside, I got a first-hand look at Makoto's scheming little performance. He came downstairs from the second floor dragging a suitcase big enough to fit himself inside. His eyes were full of stubborn resolve, yet the shimmering tears in them made him look ridiculously delicate for a grown man. One glance was enough for me to conclude that the suitcase was completely empty. It was absurdly oversized compared to his build. If he had only packed a few things, there'd be no need for something that large. But judging by its volume, even if he had stuffed it with nothing but toilet paper, there was no way he could lift it one-handed like that. So the giant suitcase was clearly just a prop. The 3 people chasing after him down the stairs were already familiar to me from the files I'd read, the Wong family of 3. My biological parents and my sister. All 3 of them had eyes only for Makoto. They didn't even spare me a glance. They rushed forward and blocked his path. My so-called mother, Karen, grabbed his hand, her gaze trembling with tears. Makoto, this is your home. If you leave, where could you possibly go? Makoto looked like he was about to break down. Mom, now that my brother is back, I've fulfilled my mission as the substitute you raised for 20 years. It's time for me to leave this family. Don't talk nonsense. You are not a substitute. My biological father, Sam Wong, a flicker of anger in his eyes, shot me a sideways glance. You are the son we raised for 20 years. You are our flesh and blood. Without you, your mother and I would never have survived our grief back then. You stayed by our side for 20 years. You don't owe the Wong family anything. It's the Wong family that owes you. My sister Willow turned toward me, her eyes openly hostile. You walking disaster. You just got back and you're already forcing Makoto out. Why didn't you just die out there? You've barely come home and you've already thrown this household into chaos. Happy now? Sam and Karen didn't react at all to their daughter's vicious accusation. They simply continued to crowd around Makoto, murmuring comfort, allowing Willow to spit venom at me unchecked. Watching the whole scene unfold, I couldn't help thinking, is this entire family intellectually challenged? He's the one choosing to leave. What the hell does that have to do with me? With brains like that? How did they even build such a massive fortune? Did they start out as professional beggars or something? Their expressions shifted instantly. All of them turned toward me at once, confusion and disbelief flickering in their eyes. There isn't even a single damn thing inside that suitcase. It's obviously just for show. Are these idiots seriously too blind to see it? Or are they putting on a performance to drive me away? Wait, they searched for me for 20 years. If they really didn't want me back, they could have just announced I was dead. Why go through all the trouble of finding me? Got it. It must be this little bastard who doesn't want me here. So he's deliberately turning everyone against me. Makoto, who had been standing in the middle of them, froze for a second. Then, with exaggerated grievance, he threw himself into my mother's arms like some pretty boy sold into a brothel. TCH. This is unbearable. I need to take my meds now, or I'm really going to lose control. Aha. I can't take it anymore. Tonight I'll hang him from the rafters and bleed him dry. It's happily decided. The entire family turned deathly pale. Makoto looked as though he'd just seen something out of a nightmare. His eyes rolled back, and he fainted on the spot. Chapter 2. That night, the Wong family specially invited a head chef from a 5-star hotel to cook at home. The table was filled to the brim with delicacies from land and sea. At the long dining table, the 3 of them sat together, warm and picture-perfect, like a happy family portrait. I, meanwhile, sat far from them near the end of the table, eating like a man who hadn't seen decent food in years, grease practically shining on my lips, as I stuffed a thick, tender piece of fatty fish belly into my mouth. I couldn't help but marvel at the fact that I finally didn't have to survive on pasta and cheese salad, the kind of bland garbage that tastes like despair. Seeing how unrestrained my table manners were, Willow looked at me with open disdain. You don't sit properly. You don't stand properly. You're an embarrassment to the Wong family. My parents said nothing, but the agreement in their eyes made their thoughts crystal clear. Noticing that all of Dad, Mom, and Willow's attention had shifted onto me, Makoto immediately started stirring up drama again. He deliberately revealed an old-fashioned mechanical wristwatch on his wrist, his tone dripping with showy gratitude. Dad, this is the heirloom Grandpa passed down. Right. Thank you for giving me such a meaningful and valuable gift. I'll treasure it forever. I thought to myself, what's the point of something like that? One hard knock and it'll shatter. If a shard flies into your eye, you're done for. It doesn't keep you fed or keep you alive. You'd be better off gifting someone a bulletproof vest. Cough, cough, cough. A violent fit of coughing suddenly erupted. My mom seemed to have choked on something. She clutched her throat with both hands, her face quickly turning bluish. Everyone shot to their feet in panic. Dad rushed over to steady her. Karen, what's wrong, Karen? Her eyes were filled with urgency and terror. She could only point desperately at her throat while pounding at her chest. She must have eaten too quickly and gotten a piece of food lodged in her airway. Brother, why would you do this? Even as Karen struggled for breath, on the verge of suffocation, Makoto still found time to smear dirt on me. He grabbed her arm and shook her frantically. Mom, what's wrong? Don't scare me. I can't live without you. Say something. Mom, what's happening to you? Did brother upset you again? If you're too embarrassed to say it, just blink. As Karen's eyes began to roll back from lack of oxygen, Makoto spun around and pointed at me furiously. Brother, why are you doing this to Mom? If you have a problem, take it out on me. I'll leave this family if I have to, but even if I go, you don't get to bully Mom. I didn't have time to argue with him. I stepped forward, grabbed him by the collar, and flung him aside in one motion. He tried to lunge back at me in anger, but I planted a solid kick straight into his face. He crashed into the dining table, dishes clattering everywhere. I moved behind Karen, wrapped my arms under her armpits, and began performing the Heimlich maneuver. Finally, a chunk of chicken bone shot out of her mouth, clattering onto the floor. Her breathing cleared instantly. The very next second, Willow charged forward and slapped me hard across the face. Chapter 3. Willow, the self-appointed knight in shining armor for her precious little brother, stepped in front of Makoto, whose nose I had just kicked into a bloody mess, with a righteous, justice-serving expression. George, you actually dared to hit your own brother. You really never saw us as family, did you? Makoto was just worried about Mom. What did he do to deserve being beaten like that? I want you to kneel down and apologize to Makoto right now. If you refuse, then get out of this house. Seeing his sister defend him so fiercely, Makoto instantly slipped into full drama mode. Big sister, please stop. I was never anything more than a placeholder in this family. Brother is Mom and Dad's biological son. If he wants to hit me, that's only fair. After all, I'm beneath him. As he spoke, he deliberately smeared the blood from his nose all over his hands, then grabbed Willow's white blouse with his stained fingers. Big sister, don't be angry at brother. If hitting me helps him calm down, then let him. Even if he beats me to death, I'd accept it willingly. A giant question mark practically appeared over my head. I turned to my biological father, who was still helping his wife steady her breathing, and looked at him with small eyes full of enormous confusion. Inside, I couldn't help thinking, the two of them seem perfectly normal in the intelligence department. How did they manage to produce a daughter who's such an idiot? And this adopted son is a complete pig brain. Couldn't he see she was choking on something? Are the young masters and ladies of elite families really this useless in a basic emergency? You think hugging and crying will magically sob a chicken bone out of someone's throat? So he's actually mentally deficient. No wonder his biological parents left him at an orphanage. With that IQ, he's definitely not normal. Ah, this is so annoying. I'm the one who saved her. So why is that idiot suddenly jumping out to protect this pig brain? Couldn't she see that if I hadn't acted, Mom would have suffocated to death? No, that idiot can't be allowed to stick around. I'll have to find a way to poison her. Otherwise she'll ruin everything sooner or later. I finally got acknowledged and can live a few peaceful days. I'm not going back to fighting other gangs for territory again. I've had more than enough of arson and murder. The moment that thought crossed my mind, the entire room fell dead silent. All four of them stared at me like they'd just seen a ghost, like I was about to open my jaws and grind them into bone dust at any second. Willow stood there, frozen, supporting Makoto, who was drenched in soup. Her throat bobbed visibly as she swallowed hard. I touched my swollen cheek where she had slapped me. What's wrong? Is there something on my face? Why are you all looking at me like that? Inside my head, however, even with death staring him in the face, he still dares to look at me like that. I'll gouge those eyeballs out and stomp them flat. Why wait? I'll take a walk down the street tomorrow. If I'm lucky, I'll send him straight to heaven the day after. Suddenly, my mother seemed to have a divine flash of clarity. She turned and roared at Willow, who was still standing there in shock. What are you standing around for? Apologize to your brother right now. Are you tired of living? Willow had clearly intended to stay stubborn and show off her rich girl pride. But before she could get a word out, Sam slapped her across the face. Her own father grabbed her by the throat and forced her to bow her head and apologize to me. My mother walked over and warmly took my hand. George, it was thanks to you that Mom was saved. You really are my lucky star. Tell me, what do you want? As long as it's within my power, I'll do my best to make it happen. I raised my hand and pointed at the mechanical wristwatch on Makoto's wrist. You want that watch? Makoto reacted like a pig being dragged to castration, clutching his wrist desperately. George, don't even dream about it. Dad gave this to me. It belongs to me alone. You'll never take it from me. Karen's face filled with hesitation. George, your father already gave that watch to your brother. Could we, perhaps, choose something else? I shook my head. I don't want the watch. You don't. Then what do you want? I want him to smash it. Right now. You're insane. This is the watch Dad gave me. I'd rather die than give it to you. Ignoring the soup soaking his clothes, Makoto darted behind Willow. Big sister, why is brother always targeting me? Is it just because I'm adopted that he can't tolerate me? Today he wants the watch Dad gave me. Tomorrow will he demand that I stay away from you? And the day after that, will he force me to leave this house forever? Soup stained Willow's outfit, and she frowned briefly, but she still stood firmly in front of Makoto. George, don't push it. I haven't acknowledged you as my brother. I only have one brother, and that's Makoto. Don't even dream that I'll accept you, you mafia-raised lunatic. No, he has to die right now. I can't tolerate this for even one more second. I walked to the dining table and picked up a chopstick. I'll use this. Straight in through one of the holes in his skull. Twist hard. Mash everything inside. Then that mouth of his will never make another sound. Stab it in. Chapter 4. Smack. Just as my biological father reached out and grabbed the chopstick in my hand, a pale-faced Willow took a solid slap from our mother. Shut your mouth. Go back to your room. Without your father's or my permission, you are not to step outside your door. After saying that, she yanked Makoto's arm over, ignoring his cry of pain, tore the mechanical wristwatch off his wrist, and slammed it hard onto the floor. Crack! The heirloom watch that had been passed down for generations shattered against the marble tiles and stopped ticking on the spot. Ah, much better. From that day on, 2 bodyguards appeared at my side. The moment I stepped out of the house, they followed me closely, never more than a step away. Don't be fooled by the fact that we're a wealthy family, my father explained solemnly when I questioned it. This country isn't as safe as it looks. There are plenty of business rivals who can't beat us openly, so they resort to dirty tricks behind the scenes. Your safety is our top priority now. He seemed genuinely worried I might misunderstand the presence of the bodyguards. My nightmares keep coming back, my mother added softly. I dream about losing you again and never being able to find you. Now that we finally brought you home, I will never let you disappear again. So blood ties really do exist. My godfather treated me well, but whenever he hugged me, it always felt faintly awkward. Yet when my biological mother embraced me, there was none of that discomfort. Still, ever since the 2 bodyguards started tailing me, I had no freedom. I couldn't gather information about the local black market, couldn't acquire materials for poisons, and I discovered that even substances like sulfur and saltpeter, basic ingredients for explosives, were strictly regulated. For the time being, I had no choice but to shelve my plans to eliminate Willow and Makoto. The idiot and the pig brain would get to live a little longer. Half a month later, to celebrate the return of their long-lost son after 20 years, the Wong family hosted a grand banquet. In the luxurious ballroom of a 5-star hotel, I wore a sharp black suit, forming a stark contrast with Makoto's flashy blue tailcoat that practically screamed for attention. I had a good build. My mother had originally wanted to choose a short, fitted jacket to highlight my physique, but the moment I removed my shirt and revealed the scars, knife wounds, gunshot wounds, crisscrossing my body, she abandoned the idea. Her trembling fingers hovered over a vicious circular scar beneath my collarbone. The instant she touched it, she recoiled as if burned. Tears streamed down her face as she silently traced the varying depths of the scars, as though counting all the years we had lost. That night, muffled sobs and heavy sighs seeped out from beneath the door of their bedroom. The next morning, a tailored black couture suit was delivered to my room. The banquet invited not only the Wong family's business partners, but also prominent figures from various sectors, local officials, and even a few well-known celebrities. Gangs also throw lavish events under various pretexts to network and strengthen alliances, so I simply sat quietly on a sofa, obediently playing the decorative mascot. Gang gatherings often end in gunfights, just as high-society banquets inevitably attract spoiled rich brats looking to stir up trouble. When I stepped out of the hotel restroom, Several young heirs with loosened ties blocked my path in the corridor. Well, if it isn't the Wang family's second young master. Heard you spent quite a few years overseas and only recently came back. They say foreign countries are pretty open-minded. So, second young master, did you pick up a boyfriend while you were abroad? One of them slung an arm around my shoulder. Don't be shy. We mean no harm. We just want to make friends with Wang's second son. Be a good boy and take off your clothes. We only want to embarrass you a little. If you don't want to get hurt, just cooperate. As the ill-intentioned heirs closed in around me, I suddenly remembered that I had forgotten to bring my medication when I left the house today. Go ahead. Let's make it explode properly. Chapter 5. A thunderous explosion echoed through the narrow corridor. Agonized screams pierced through the smoke, only to be swallowed moments later by the shrill wail of the ceiling's fire alarm. Within seconds, the entire hallway was drenched. Water from the sprinklers poured down in sheets, quickly suppressing the thick cloud of smoke. When the last drops finally fell, the banquet guests gathered outside the restroom were met with a shocking sight. Several men lay sprawled on the floor, wailing in pain. One man's face was charred black. His jaw had been dislocated, his mouth hanging open at an impossible angle. A darkened tongue lolled out, and every tooth in his mouth was gone, like a violent blast had detonated inside it. Two others clutched their bloodied faces, writhing on the soaked carpet, screaming in agony. Another man seemed to have been frightened senseless. He sat collapsed against the wall, trembling uncontrollably, staring at something unseen. A spreading yellow stain across his trousers made it clear he had lost control of his bladder. People with first aid knowledge immediately stepped forward to help. Someone dialed the emergency number. Others rushed to find hotel staff, demanding to know what had happened. Amid the chaos in the hallway, the restroom door suddenly opened. I stepped out, adjusting my pants, wearing an utterly bewildered expression. Oh, that's great. Are you here to rescue me? My eyes were wide with fear as I looked at the four men on the ground. They blocked me in the hallway and tried to attack me. They even forced me into the restroom and wouldn't let me leave. I glanced around at the crowd. Did all of you save me? Once it was clear that someone had tried to cause trouble, the police were called immediately. But after reviewing the hotel's surveillance footage, the officers placed me in the squad car without hesitation. Only then did the banquet guests learn what had truly happened in the corridor. On the video, I had just stepped out of the restroom when the group of men blocked my path. Their leering smiles and suggestive remarks made their malicious intentions obvious. The way they advanced showed this wasn't going to be some harmless prank. Just as I was about to back into the restroom doorway, the footage showed me suddenly letting out a sharp, almost manic laugh. In the next second, I pulled out, seemingly from nowhere, a massive double-banger firecracker and shoved it straight into the mouth of the man in front. Then I kicked it hard, driving the explosive deeper, and spun around to sprint back into the restroom. The man panicked, trying to grab the firecracker from his mouth. But before his hand could even reach it, a blinding burst of smoke and flame erupted from between his jaws. Fragments from the blast sprayed outward. The two men beside him screamed, clutching their faces as debris struck them. The screen suddenly went black, likely shattered by flying shrapnel from the explosion. When the footage ended, every gaze in the ballroom drifted unconsciously toward the flashing police lights slowly disappearing outside the hotel below. Chapter 6. The man who had the double banger stuffed into his mouth suffered catastrophic facial injuries. His jaw was fractured, his face nearly unrecognizable, and his throat was damaged, but fortunately, his life wasn't in danger. The two standing closest to him weren't so lucky. One lost an eye from the blast. The other's face was peppered with deep burns and shrapnel wounds, leaving him permanently disfigured. If I'd been able to get more materials, I could have built something far more powerful. Unfortunately, the two bodyguards kept such a tight watch on me that I never had the chance to gather enough supplies. Still, there were things I could order online. Packages weren't inspected, which gave me an opening. I managed to purchase small quantities of raw materials for gunpowder. It wasn't much, but today it was enough. Enough to keep those spoiled heirs from stripping me naked and humiliating the Wang family in public. At the police station, after reviewing my psychiatric evaluation and the medication I'd been taking long-term, the officers released me on the spot and instructed my family to keep me under strict supervision. The medication I took was a psychiatric suppressant. My diagnosis, intermittent behavioral mania, developed during years of gang life overseas, episodes marked by obsessive, violent tendencies. When my biological parents read the report, a deep guilt filled their eyes. If I hadn't gone missing back then, I should have grown up as the dignified young master of the Wang family. Instead, I'd become a gang lunatic who built explosives by hand. Dad, Mom, he's clinically insane, Willow insisted. Keeping someone like him in this house is like planting a landmine that could explode at any moment. How are we supposed to guarantee our safety? He didn't grow up with you. There's no emotional bond. Why not take this chance to send him to a psychiatric hospital? He'll get treatment, and we'll be safe. Isn't that a win-win? We already have Makoto as your son. Isn't that enough? Do you really have to keep this walking disaster here until he blows us all up with homemade bombs? Faced with Willow's persistent demand to send me away, Makoto, the counterfeit heir, was quick to raise both hands in agreement. Yes, Dad, Mom, I think brother's mental state really isn't stable. Maybe we should listen to sister. This isn't something to take lightly. If brother loses control one day, who could stop him? As the two of them spoke with careful persuasion, my parents' expressions began to waver. When they looked at me now, their eyes carried more suspicion, more fear. Inside my head, a psychiatric hospital. That place is basically kindergarten. I broke out of an armed prison overseas. You think a mental institution could hold me? You think I'm some rabid dog biting at random? Do they really think I can't find out who sent those scumbags after me? If those two say one more word about sending me away, I'll bury them in the backyard before sunset. That big tree in the yard looks perfect. Dig deep, head down, bury them upright. Toss in a dead cat or dog on top so even the police dogs get fooled. Right, I'll need yogurt and milk first. That'll speed up decomposition. At that moment, I picked up the yogurt on the table and took a long gulp. Willow suddenly gagged and vomited on the spot. I turned to her with genuine confusion. Sis, are you pregnant or something? Chapter 7. After the hotel incident, I wasn't sent to a psychiatric hospital. First, because a psychiatric hospital isn't a prison, it wouldn't be able to hold me anyway. Second, because aside from the one time I stuffed a homemade firecracker into someone's mouth, I hadn't done anything particularly out of line. The psychiatrist also reassured my parents that they didn't need to overreact. My condition was largely the result of prolonged high-pressure gang life overseas. As long as I adapted to a peaceful environment, I could gradually stop taking the suppressive medication. To aid my recovery, my parents arranged a comfortable, low-responsibility position for me in the company's legal department. Their hope was that exposure to normal work and social interaction would help stabilize me further, whether intentional or not. From my very first day, my colleagues in the legal department began enthusiastically educating me on all sorts of laws. Every day, they vividly explained case studies, almost as if they were conducting moral instruction for a particularly troublesome student. Compared to Willow, who was so busy as vice president that she practically needed to kick the back of her own head to keep up, I felt like a kindergarten kid attending enrichment classes. As for Makoto, he was the family's pampered young master and Willow's favorite little brother. He didn't need to work at all. Every day, he either went out burning money like it grew on trees or gathered with a group of spoiled heirs from other wealthy families to stir up trouble. Sometimes he'd just book a flight and travel abroad to indulge in women and luxury, fully embodying the decadent lifestyle of a trust fund playboy. I attended one of his gatherings once, 2 bottles of liquor in, and those rich brats all found excuses to slip away. The way they looked at me as they left, it wasn't how you look at a person. It was how you look at a predator that might lunge at any moment. After that, I never attended another one of their pointless parties, and no one ever dared to invite me again. Time passed in dull monotony. Just as I was beginning to feel like I might start growing mold from boredom, I happened to pass by a conference room at Wong Corporation and, through a gap in the blinds, caught sight of a familiar figure I hadn't seen in a long time. That day, I had just finished another session of legal education and was wandering around the company aimlessly. As I walked past the conference room, I heard raised voices inside, an intense argument, as though negotiations had gone off the rails. Through the slats of the blinds, I saw a familiar golden-haired figure sitting back in a chair with one leg crossed over the other, casually debating with an increasingly agitated Willow. I pushed the door open and walked straight in. I've said this many times already. Willow was snapping. This is the greatest sincerity Wong Corporation can offer right now. You keep inflating the price and constantly revising the contract. What? Are you trying to establish an international monopoly? You've repeatedly raised costs and altered terms. Do you business people have no integrity at all? If you continue like this. She broke off mid-rant when she saw me enter. Her expression darkened immediately. George, do you have any sense of basic manners? Don't you know how to knock before entering? Can't you see I'm in the middle of a meeting with a supplier? Get out. I ignored her and walked straight toward the supplier. Schmidt, what are you doing here? The arrogant blonde foreigner who had been lounging comfortably froze the moment he saw my face. His expression shifted instantly into pure horror. My God, dear Lord, tell me this is a nightmare. Grunfeld. Death's ingrown toenail. Grunfeld, why are you here? Willow blinked in confusion. Grunfeld. What Grunfeld? I glanced back at her lazily. My old name, the one my godfather gave me. Schmidt, who had been sitting in the chair, was now so frightened that he had practically collapsed into it. What do you think you're doing? Let me tell you, this isn't Italy. If you dare hurt me, the law here won't let you get away with it. He turned toward Willow in panic. Wong, what exactly are you trying to do? We're business partners. Why would you treat me like this? I admit it was wrong of me to raise the price of the raw materials, but you can't treat a friend this way. Willow looked completely baffled by his outburst. But she could clearly see that the foreigner's fear of me was far from ordinary. What are you talking about? He's my long-lost brother. We just found him recently. His name is George now, not whatever Grunfeld you're babbling about. Hearing her explanation, Schmidt's face turned a sickly shade of green. You cunning merchant. No wonder you tolerated my inflated pricing for so long. You were waiting for this day all along. You planned to fatten me up like a wild boar and slaughter me at the perfect moment, didn't you? I shot Willow a sideways glance. You're this indecisive in business, yet somehow you're vice president. If you put even half the effort you used to make things difficult for Makoto and me into the business arena, you wouldn't be bullied to the point where you can't even pull your pants up. Hearing the conversation between the two of us, Schmidt's already pale face turned even paler. Can't pull my pants up? What exactly are you going to do to me? There's an old saying in your country about honor. He stammered. A gentleman may be killed but not humiliated. I won't submit to this, even if I die. Relax, I said lightly, patting his cheek. I'm not going to kill you. But if you insist on keeping those inflated prices, I can't promise what might happen. Schmidt, before I came back to this country, I heard you recently remarried Oriana, wasn't it? And she gave you a son, Javier, right? You see, my position in this family isn't exactly secure. If you lower the price a little, make things easier for me here, then everyone's future will be smoother. But if you insist on clinging to that extra profit, you might find yourself in need of a new wife, and that new wife might have to give you another son. I sighed softly, as though genuinely sympathetic. Poor little Javier, not even old enough to call you Papa before he's sent straight to heaven. Imagine how heartbroken his father would be. I lowered my gaze and looked directly into Schmidt's eyes. Don't you agree, my dear Mr. Schmidt? Chapter 8. The overseas contract was signed with remarkable ease. Schmidt, deeply moved by my sincerity, agreed to a price so low it practically made him want to jump off a building, successfully saving his family in the process. Wang Corporation secured the order it wanted. Schmidt protected his loved ones. A perfect win-win. So while Makoto was still out there hopping from one bed to another with different women, I used that lucrative international deal to firmly establish my position within the Wang family. My parents and sister no longer looked at me with prejudice. Even Willow's hostility toward me vanished as if it had never existed at all. A week later, Makoto ended his debauched vacation and returned home, his kidneys presumably exhausted and his soul even emptier. But when he pushed open the villa door, he found me sitting in what used to be his exclusive seat, laughing and chatting with our parents and Willow about amusing company matters over dinner. When they saw him, my parents didn't greet him with their usual warmth. They simply asked a couple of neutral questions and told him to join us for the meal. Makoto didn't show any obvious resentment, but as he sat at the edge of the table, watching the four of us talking animatedly like a harmonious family, the dissatisfaction in his eyes didn't escape me. After dinner, just as he was about to head upstairs, Karen delivered the final blow. Makoto, from now on you'll stay in the West guest room. We've cleared out your old room for your brother. His suitcase hit the floor with a heavy thud. Clothes and belongings spilled everywhere. Why? Didn't you say I was your most beloved son? Why are you treating me like this now? Is it just because I'm not your biological child? I've been with you for 20 years. You said the Wang family owed me, that I didn't owe you anything. Why are you going back on your word? If you dislike me so much, then I'll leave. That way I won't be an eyesore in this house. He stormed toward the door in anger. But when his hand grasped the doorknob, there was no familiar voice behind him urging him to stay. He stood there for over a minute, hand resting on the handle, unable to muster the courage to open it. Why aren't you stopping me? He demanded, turning around. Every time I threatened to run away before, you begged me to stay. Why don't you like me anymore just because he came back? He had expected tears. Instead, he saw disappointment in his parents' and sister's eyes. Makoto, Sam sighed. If you can behave yourself and live properly in this house, we will still treat you as our son, but if you insist on engaging in those underhanded schemes behind our backs, then I'll have no choice but to remove you from this family. Willow stepped forward and tossed a phone onto the carpet at his feet. Look at it yourself. Makoto picked up the phone, confused. After a single glance at the screen, he looked up in disbelief. You knew? Yes, Karen said, pain filling her eyes. We know everything. You were afraid George would return and take your place. You tracked him down long ago. You even hired someone to eliminate him so he would never come back. After we found George, you showed no restraint. You repeatedly slandered him. You even instigated those spoiled heirs to publicly humiliate him, just to disgrace the Wang family. They're your loyal followers. You hinted that if they ruined your brother, once you inherited the Wang family, you'd grant them shares in Wang Corporation. You tried to destroy your own brother for your position. What did you think the Wang family was? What did you think our reputation was worth? Right now the entire elite circle is gossiping that you, an adopted son, attacked your own brother just to maintain your status as the sole heir. You've dragged the Wang family's name through the mud. Willow stood before him, her gaze cold. The families of those 3 injured men have already made it clear, they're holding you responsible. They intend to settle the score with you. Dad was prepared to protect you. Today was supposed to be your final chance. But you're still dissatisfied, still fighting George over something as trivial as a room. She walked to the door, opened it herself, and pushed Makoto outside. Go. From now on, you have nothing to do with the Wong family. Chapter 9. That night, Makoto knelt outside the villa gates for a long time. Not a single person in the house opened the door for him, even though the evidence that exposed him had all been provided by me. The Wong family's ruthlessness towards someone they had raised for 20 years sent a chill through my entire body. For the sake of the Wong family's reputation and interest, they had cast aside 2 decades of affection without hesitation. If one day I, this biological son with no emotional foundation, ever threatened the family's core interests, wouldn't they discard me just as easily? Just before dawn, Makoto disappeared. No one knew where he had gone. My parents, despite everything, still couldn't fully let go. They sent people to search for him, but no trace of him was ever found. Life moved on. Aside from Karen locking herself in her room and crying for 2 days, nothing changed. It was as if Makoto had never existed, but I knew something they didn't. When you search for someone and can't find them anywhere, it usually means that person is deliberately hiding. And someone like Makoto, petty and vindictive, would never let the Wong family off so easily. A month later, Willow vanished on her way home. Her car disappeared along with her. Traffic surveillance later showed that someone had intercepted her vehicle and abducted her. When police finally forced their way into a presidential suite at a hotel, they found Makoto, completely naked, and Willow unconscious on the bed. At the detention center, facing the parents who had raised him for 20 years, Makoto's eyes were almost entirely consumed by madness. You threw me out of the Wong family just like that. I'll hate you for the rest of my life. Now I've ruined your daughter's purity. Not only did I sleep with her, I made her pregnant with my child. If I can't be the Wong family's son, then I'll make your daughter carry my child. My child will become your grandchild. Inside, I couldn't help thinking, what an absolute pig brain. With that IQ, he thinks he can latch onto the Wong family like this. Keep dreaming. What he doesn't know is that when I first came home and he tried to sabotage me, I got irritated and slipped something into his drink. By now he's long past the point of no return, completely infertile. In that instant, not only Makoto, but even my parents, looked at me in horror. I blinked at them innocently. What? Is there something on my face? Chapter 10. Willow's injuries were too severe. She lost the ability to have children forever. Makoto's medical report also confirmed what I already knew. He was infertile as well. He was formally arrested for rape. Even after being transferred from the detention center to prison, he kept demanding to see my parents. Unfortunately for him, there is no forgiveness for the person who destroys your daughter. My parents now wish they could execute him on the spot. The Wong family returned to peace. Of the 3 children who had once lived under this roof, only one remained healthy and free, me. The betrayal of their adopted son and the devastation suffered by their daughter struck my parents hard. In what felt like a single night, they aged more than a decade. I was transferred out of the legal department and gradually began taking over the company's operations. 1 year later, I formally assumed control of Wong Corporation. Leveraging connections from my past, I aggressively expanded its overseas trade network. As for my parents, I arranged for them to stay at a high-end rehabilitation estate to recuperate. They were very satisfied with the environment there. That evening, I joined them for dinner at the estate. When they nearly simultaneously finished the bowls of abalone porridge in front of them, their expressions changed at the same time. They looked at me with a kind of absolute, bone-deep terror, because they had heard my thoughts. Finally, Wong Corporation is firmly in my grasp. These 2 old bastards are no longer useful. Did they really think I didn't know? The Wong family's first pot of gold came from selling me overseas, and now they have the nerve to act like loving parents in front of me. Disgusting. The poison in this porridge, consider it my repayment for the gift of life they gave me. I smiled and gently set down my chopsticks, wearing a look of mild confusion. Dad, Mom, what's wrong? Does the porridge not taste right? Inside, however, that's right. Go on, die already.